My definition of a classic book is very simple. A classic book is one that has had a very significant impact on the world. All right, that's a little subjective because what's very impactful? That's another subjective term, just like classic book is subjective in itself, and I admit that. And while it's still very much a subjective definition, I propose that a book achieves significant impact when it impresses an idea of philosophy, science, or art on a society as a whole. And another aspect within that determines whether a book becomes a classic has to do with the universality of its themes. Too specific of a message won't appeal to wide enough people in diverse times for the work to really mature into a classic. Truth, justice, virtue, revenge, beauty, despair, the story of the hero, these are all things that people understand universally for the most part around the world, especially at least within the Western world that is the focus of the Western canon that we're mainly devoted to on this channel and on ThinkingWest.com. So hence the classics often highlight the most universal ideas. And so with that established, we last have to ask ourselves then, well, how do books become classics? What's the process look like? Well, classic books largely evolve through a process that I describe as Darwinian, but you could also think of it as a democratic process. So whenever one reads a book and adopts some idea from it, and then talks about that idea, that book is one step closer to becoming codified as a classic. Each time we read a book and then promote it in some way, say by conversation or recommendation, we're essentially voting for this book to live on. We're saying, hey, I like this book and I'm going to promote it into the potential pool of classic books in the future. If enough people in a society cast their votes for a book in this way, that book, coupled with a little bit of time for this to really make impact on not just one generation but multiple, this book may then become a classic work.